Okay, so as most of you know, my wife and I just had our second kid, and I don't know if the algorithm or YouTube knows this, as they say, they're always listening, but I got recommended this video from Good Morning Britain, which Pierce Morgan used to be on, and it's 5 years old. However, the title kind of caught me. It said, "Should parents ask their babies for consent before changing their nappies?" And nappies, I believe, are diapers. Now, as I'm in this stage right now, I thought this would be quite comical to see how somebody could, I guess, defend this or try to have a stance on it. Now, I have seen this lady before in another video, which was only 3 years ago. This one's 5. And this one was, should parents ask for consent before kissing their grandchildren? So I don't know if this lady's just out to lunch or what, but let's jump into it.
Right, Jane. You think that parents should ask their children's consent when they are babies to change their nappy. Is this not sexualizing the interaction between a parent and child? Because actually, it's just a parent's job to change a nappy, isn't it? It's just a normal,
100%,
natural,
yeah.
innocent thing.
I'm very confused about how this would become a sexual issue. So, for example...
Because you're talking...
Well, yeah, because you're asking for consent. Consent is typically used for something deemed inappropriate that you might need permission for. Or it's always like a thing that is requiring permission to do. Now, typically when you talk about consent, it is due to sexual acts. If you're consenting to this or consenting to that, but...
about consent, which is implying that parents are doing something which is non-consensual.
There's nothing sexual about consent. If I was to say, oh, Suzanne, it's really lovely to meet you, I would love to give you a hug, I would wait for you to communicate with me,
because
whether that's
two adults.
Well, it's even more important to do it with a baby. You're building a baby's brain.
The baby can't respond, and also...
Have you got kids?
Of course. I've worked with
How many have you got?
I've got one, and I've fostered, and I've
Talk
been
me
a
through the conversation you
childminder.
had with your 3-month-old baby about consent. How did they go?
It would have gone.
I love Pierce, and I love his new show, Pierce Morgan. I think it's Uncensored. Great watch. He's got a lot of good conversations, good topics to talk about. But on this show, I've never seen him before, so this is interesting.
I just need to change your nappy now to make you comfortable.
And
Hold on, what does she say?
It would have gone. I just need to change your nappy now to make you comfortable.
And your 3-month-old baby said what in response?
Of course, we would know that a 3-month-old baby can't speak. Babies communicate all the time.
How did your baby take?
Sexuality educator sparks debate about consensual. Okay, so she's asking why this has to be a sexual thing about consent, yet she's a sexuality educator. What? And yeah, what is the point of having this conversation or even asking this child? Again, if this child can't even respond, the point of asking consent or getting permission is to hear the response from somebody saying whether they consent or not. If the child is not even in that stage where they're able to consent, this is a redundant process.
Tell you that it was giving consent, a boy or girl?
A boy.
Or gender fluid? Which one?
A boy.
A boy. So how did your little boy, aged 3 months, communicate to you that it was okay to change his nappy?
It's not the okay, it's the respect.
How do they give consent?
Well, that you can see in a body, in the body energy of any
So what
human
would he...
being.
Talk me through it. Show me what he would
Well,
do.
if a baby is upset, then you will see tension, a body arch,
Jane,
something
plenty
like
of
that.
babies don't like it when...
That's just a baby being a baby. A baby has no idea of what's going on, their autonomy, where they actually are in time and space. They move, they squirm, they get angry. If you have the baby swaddled and they're trying to get their arms up, they look like they're really angry until they get their arms out and they're relaxed. Like, babies just do random things. What is this lady on about?
when you change their nappy. I mean, we've all, as parents, had to change the nappy of a
of
child who
course,
doesn't.
of course.
You have to override that for the hygiene and safety of the baby.
Course
Not
you do,
changing the nappy is
but
abusive.
Of course, and nobody
Yeah.
would leave a baby in a dirty nappy.
Did your son ever say no to you?
It's introducing the idea that I respect
That's a good question. Did your son ever say no to you?
you as a human being. So there's going to be a momentary acknowledgement of I see you and you matter.
Did you ever not
in the
change
same
your- did you ever
way
not
that
change
if
your-
you were an adult
Okay.
and you were immobile and non-verbal
Got it,
and
got it.
somebody had to touch you and clean you, you would like somebody to say,
We're fully grown adults who can communicate.
Here's
Yes, exactly. At that point, a fully grown adult, even if they're nonverbal, potentially has other ways of expressing, whether they consent or they're okay with what you're doing to them. Now, worst case scenario, even if they're not, it's still your duty to change their diaper or bedding or whatever is required so that they can stay hygienic and then they can continue on with their day the way that they were. This is crazy.
okay if I touch you now,
All
even
right,
though
let me
you're
bring in Hillary. Look, this sounds completely nuts to me, right?
I-
No baby aged 3 months old can possibly communicate anything about having a nappy change. And if you don't change its nappy because it doesn't give you consent because it wobbles its head in a certain way, then that is, I'm afraid, abusive parenting.
Exactly, you can't leave a baby in a dirty nappy. And the thing is,
Okay, to play devil's advocate, I don't think she's advocating for that, whether the kid says something or doesn't. She did say that you should always change the diaper, which I agree with, but I just find that this is such a silly topic to talk about.
consent. Children can't give consent. That's why
They can.
that's why we have an age of consent, because
yeah.
children under the age of 16 can't consent. So we have to, as responsible parents, we have to decide for them what's good for them. And
But as
good
a responsible
parents,
parent, you want to raise your child to know that their body belongs to them. Think of the NSPCC pants
Yes.
campaign. It all hinges
Right, okay,
on
so let's
I
take,
agree with
okay,
that.
all right.
course.
So Jane, just to clarify, because viewers will be watching this going, how do I do this with my 3-month-old baby? What are the signs they should look for of a baby not giving consent for its nappy to be changed?
It's just looking for that moment of respect.
What is that
you
moment? Show me,
offer.
what does a baby do?
So for a baby, there'll be a tiny relaxation.
Come here, dirty nappy, boom, change, new nappy. Your way is, so I'm going to be
Just
the...
a millisecond
I'm going to be the
longer than
father here.
that.
You're one of my children for a moment, okay? So you're 3 months old, you don't speak a word of anything, you just gurgle, you break wind, you
I'm
defecate
communicating
and you
with
eat,
you
right?
non-verbally all the time, yes.
Okay. I would like to change your nappy. Oh,
There
your
was
shoulders
a
slump.
momentary, yes,
What? That's what I have to be looking for with my son to see if he's okay with me changing his diaper or not. What? His little shoulders go down? What if his arms go up? Does that mean no, I can't do it?
Well,
relaxation.
So if a baby's shoulders slump,
Well, there's
it is
different
refusing
ways.
consent. So
No,
what
no, that was giving...
Are you giving consent? I'm sorry.
No, all I'm looking for
Sorry,
is
I've
that...
got it wrong. So the signal...
Yeah, that's a bit of a worry,
So
isn't
the
it?
shoulder sloping is consent.
Well, it may be in one baby. Every human
You mean
being...
another baby it
Right.
might be the opposite?
All
How do we
you're
know?
doing is you're
How do I know as a
tuning-
parent
you're
whether it's
tuning-
giving me consent or not?
Because you tune into your baby from birth onwards.
Right.
If you're not on your phone all the time.
Okay, so
And you read your
if that was
baby, you
consent,
read their cries,
what would
you
be the
read-
sign for not giving consent from a 3-month-old?
Well, as it would in an adult, it would be more of a tension.
Tension.
So just pause.
My son does those faces all the time where he's like, "What's going on, guys? What's going on?" Oh man, this conversation's wild.
It's not to... Of course we have to change babies' nappies. That would be lunacy to
Right.
expect.
But the
you know,
problem being
because
that
we want
some
to keep our
babies,
clean
a
and
shoulder
safe.
shrug could be yes, others it could be no.
You know your
And the
baby.
tensing could be yes or no as well.
Yeah,
quite
it's the
confusing.
joy of being a parent that you learn your baby to as your baby grows.
If your baby doesn't give consent with its tension, and it's one of the babies where the tension means no, not yes, even though it can be yes.
You learn
not
your
no.
own baby.
What do you do? Do you leave your baby to rot in its nappy?
I've made that very
it's-
clear that you would never do that.
So what would you do?
You just wait for a moment.
What if it's like 3 days?
But a baby
What if it's 3 days? Listen, I understand what she's saying. Teaching the child that their body is theirs and they should have autonomy and you know, to make sure that nobody can touch you or do anything to you unless you give them permission. I'm all for that. But there has to be you know, a time and a place and age. There has to be some sort of boundary or setup for this kid to understand, to be able to understand. As a 3-month-old, or even, you know, below a year and a half, 2 years, when they can't even really talk too much, putting a lot, like, well, not that you're putting a lot of pressure on them, but like throwing this at them or just making them aware of consent doesn't make any sense.
It's
of
just
3 months
ridiculous.
isn't
That's
aware.
oh, that's ridiculous. I was saying, sorry. So that part of our conversation is ridiculous.
Well,
okay,
leaving a baby
Hillary.
in a-
Hillary. I mean, this to me is the stuff of utter insanity. What is going on in the world where we're even
Safeguarding children.
Yeah.
It's not about safeguarding children.
Okay, Hillary, there is a serious issue here,
Yeah.
which is that we are trying to deal with children growing up knowing that their bodies are their own.
Yeah,
And that's fine with an older child, but a little baby isn't aware that it's an individual until they're like 18 months, I think it is, or around 18 months. When they look in the mirror, they're not aware that they're looking at
No.
themselves.
Okay. Look,
There you go. Like I said, 1.5 years, 2 years, until they start able to like form sentences, have conversations with you, stuff like that. Wow, that was a good laugh. I really enjoyed that. Anyways, as always, love to hear from you guys on this. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.